Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Nathan Boyd, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Jocelyn Blowfield. We warmly welcome the family of Lieutenant James Murray Aitken, whose story will be told shortly. We are honoured to acknowledge Lieutenant General Datuk Ahmad Nohihan bin Jalal, Director General, Defence Intelligence Malaysia, and the accompanying delegation. We also welcome the members of the Royal Military College class of 1960 reunion delegation. Thank you for your service. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who will watch the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students on behalf of Tamworth South Public School, Tamworth, New South Wales. If you're able, please stand and in singing the national anthem. Students and visitors, if you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance of the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, list the names of more than 102,000 men and women who gave their lives for us in war and on operation for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant James Murray Aitken. James Aitken was born in 1891 in Bendigo, Victoria. Commonly known by his middle name, Murray, he was the eldest of two sons born to James Aitken Sr. and his wife Bessie. James's father became ill in 1895 and died in the mining town of Coolgardie, where he had moved during the gold rush. 2 years later, James, his mother, and his younger brother Frank moved to Western Australia, settling in the town of Boulder. James attended Kalgoorlie Central School, where he was a member of the cadets. On completion of his schooling, he worked for R.D. Mackenzie & Co. as an accountant. When war broke out in 1914, Aitken was quick to volunteer, enlisting in the Australian Imperial Force on the 18th of August 1914. He was assigned to the 11th Battalion and began a period of training in Australia. 2 months later, he embarked for active service from Fremantle on board the troop ship Ascanius. After a short stay in Egypt, on the 25th of April 1915, Aitken went ashore during the Gallipoli landing. Writing home to his mother, he described his first experiences of fighting against the Turks. "It's no good saying I wasn't afraid after the first intoxication had died down, for I was. At first, shrapnel had me shivering and the hail of bullets made me duck, but I'm all over that now. It gives me a sort of blood-curdling satisfaction to shoot at men as fast as ever I can. And a bayonet charge is the acme of devilish excitement. Each night we have had to repel attacks. The sight of the bayonet is sufficient for our friend, the enemy." Aitken's skills as a soldier were quickly recognised and he was soon promoted. In July, he was made Lance Corporal. In August, he was promoted to Corporal. In September, he became the Company Quartermaster Sergeant. During this time, his battalion fought at the Battle of Lone Pine and spent time defending the front line of the Anzac beachhead. In January 1916, after the Allied evacuation from Gallipoli, Aitken returned to Egypt. 2 months later, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant. Before leaving for the Western Front, he wrote home, "Well, mother dear, I'm not a scrap afraid. Somehow I fixed the idea that I'm to get home again. When the dangers are nearest is the time when I have an overwhelming longing to have you, just you, with me. Little mother, believe me when I say my thoughts are full of you always, and of the joy when we're together again." Aitken arrived in France in early April and was sent north to the Somme, which had been the site of heavy fighting since 1914. In June, he was promoted to lieutenant ahead of the Battle of Pozières. Australian units fought for 42 days, taking over 23,000 casualties. Aitken was wounded during the fighting, but remained on duty in the front lines. The remainder of 1916 was spent in the trenches around Ypres in Belgium, before Aitken's unit returned to the Somme in time for winter. In March 1917, Aitken was seconded to the 3rd Battalion and sent to England, where he remained for 6 months. In September 1917, he rejoined his unit in Belgium and fought at Polygon Wood. The following month, his unit fought at Broodsinder, Polkapelle and Passchendaele. In March 1918, Aitken's unit was involved in repulsing the German advance that took place during their spring offensive. In April, he was made acting adjutant for a month before returning to duty in the front lines. Aitken was wounded a second time in June when his unit attacked German lines near Mont de Maris, where it was subject to heavy shelling and gas attacks. Aitken again remained on duty despite being wounded. He was later awarded the Military Cross for his actions during the attack. His recommendation noted, Lieutenant Aitken showed great gallantry and devotion to duty. Single-handed, he attacked a machine gun post which was enfilading the company, captured the machine gun and 12 prisoners. This saved many casualties and cleared the right flank of the attack. By this stage of the war, it was becoming clear that the Germans were becoming unable to continue the war. A major offensive was planned for the 8th of August 1918. The Allies hoped to deliver a blow to the enemy that would end the war. Aitken's battalion was committed to the attack on the 10th of August and advanced at 4 a.m. The men immediately came under attack from enemy planes and machine guns, particularly on their left flank. As they advanced, they found areas of enemy lines which had been untouched by the Allied barrage. The enemy that remained opened fire on Aitken's unit, causing heavy casualties. During this advance, Aitken was hit and killed in action, 3 months from the war's end. Reflecting on their heavy casualties, the 11th Battalion's commanding officer noted, "Our losses have been severe, some of our most valued officers going under, men whom neither the AIF nor Australia can afford to lose." Aitken's final resting place was never located, and today he is commemorated on the Australian National Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux in France. James Aitken was 24 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lieutenant James Murray Aitken, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Byng. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.